Hello, this is Johnny Jackson. Today I'm tying a Sunday special that's tied with copper ribbing. I tie this bug both with copper ribbing and without copper ribbing. Summertime I tend to fish this with the copper ribbing, imitating either a Scud or a Sowbug. And in the springtime I tend to fish it without the copper ribbing, fishing it more as a caddis imitation. But I interchange them, and if one's working and or one's not working, I might change it out during the day. Anyway, with that, let's get started. So I tied this on. I'm going to tie this on a size 14, generally be a Scud hook with a 1/8 inch copper bead. Today I'm actually tying it on a fully mill 1160. They actually call this a super grub hook versus a Scud hook. Same thing. Like I say, it's a 1/8 inch tungsten copper bead, and I'm going to start by wrapping some lead wire on the hook shank, and I will add about 8 wraps of lead wire. This is .20 lead wire, and I'll just break that off at both ends, and then I'll use my fingernails and I'll push those lead wire wraps up inside the bead, and that locks the bead in place. And now I'm going to use some UTC 70 denier thread in tan, and I'll start putting thread wraps on the hook shank, and I put them just below on the hook shank, below the lead wraps. So once I've got that on, I'll break it off, and now I will put a pretty good thread down, tapering up to those lead wraps. Once I've got a thread down in there that locks the lead in, then I'll take thread wraps up and down across the lead, covering it up. Don't have to get it super covered up, but just generally cover it up. And then I'll come back onto the hook shank and I'll build a bit of a taper from the hook shank to the lead wraps, just making a little bit of a taper body. And now I'll wrap it all the way down into the bend of the hook. At this point I'm going to use some copper wire, and this is UTC ultra wire in Brassie, and so I'll lay a piece alongside my hook shank, and I'll take it about to the tip of where the lead wraps end. So I'm just really wrapping this in the taper to the hook shank, get that locked on, and now I am ready to add my dubbing. For dubbing, I am using Wapsi SowScud in color 259 light Sowbug. You can use a variety of colors. Often I will take this Wapsi product and a few other products, maybe some hare's mask, and I'll mix a custom blend of dubbing just to add some depth of colors in my dubbing. But most of the time I'm tying this in tan. You could also tie it in olives, kind of smoky olives. It works in a variety of colors. And I'll make a dubbing noodle on my tying thread about 3 inches long. In general, when you're adding dubbing in a dubbing noodle and you're putting dubbing on a nymph like this, often less dubbing is better. In my early days I often just wrapped them really too fat, and so less is often more. I'll take several wraps down here on the very end, and then I'll start taking overlapping wraps where they're just the dubbing noodles just touching the previous wrap up the hook shank, making sure that it's touching, fully covering. Looks like I'm going to be a little sparse towards the end, so I'm going to add just a little bit more dubbing onto my thread, because I want to pack this in pretty good up here at the bead. I want it to reach all the way to the bead. Need just a tad bit more. And when I get up here, a couple of wraps behind the bead, and now I come back and I start wrapping my wire. And I just leave enough spacing so that it looks like a segmentation. You know, it looks like I'm going to get about maybe 5 or 6 wraps here. When I get to the bead, I'll do one wrap right around behind the bead, and I'll do a wrap of thread over the wire, under the wire, over the wire, and under the wire. And then I will use a set of old scissors and I'll cut it off. Sometimes I can also helicopter it. Now I'll do a couple more wraps on top of the wire and I will do a whip finish. A dab of Sally Hansen's for head cement on those wraps of thread. Keeps everything locked into place. I see a few long hairs and I'll pick some of those off. But that is it. A Sunday special fixed with copper ribbing. Let's go fishing.